Welcome to Grade 6, Unit 3. Now, we all have everyday experience with weather and weather forecasts, but what goes into those? This unit is about the nuts and bolts of what influences the long-term patterns of weather at different locations, the climate. And of course, we'll be raising questions about how those patterns are changing. Our unit roadmap image raises a lot of interesting questions, like, why is it snowy in the mountains? Why does the pressure fall when a storm is nearing? Why is it colder closer to the poles and warmer closer to the equator? And why do some cities have similar weather year-round while others switch from extremely cold to extremely hot? The roadmap also highlights the key activity that we're going to be checking in with throughout the unit, tracking the weather in cities that we adopt. The idea is that each student should adopt a city where they have a personal connection. Then in the culminating experience, they'll write a climate fiction, or cli-fi, story set in that city. Let's look at how we build up that experience. We start with students learning about the 1993 storm of the century, where it snowed nearly 4 feet in New York. Students track data leading up to the storm, and they recognize that we can predict the weather in our city if we have the right type of data. Students then focus on relating two key pieces of weather data, wind and air pressure, and they discover one of the fundamental physical processes driving weather changes. And they can do all of this by understanding why it's so often windy at the beach. Then we step back and apply our beach level understanding to the entire planet, looking at how air masses move in predictable ways from city to city. We'll learn some cool things about bird migration along the way. As we compare the different climates in our different adopted cities, we see that there's some big patterns overall. We introduce the planetary scale 3-cell model of global climate, showing how energy gets from the equator to the poles, and try to use that to understand the weather patterns in our different adopted cities. We then investigate the factors that influence climate, like latitude and altitude, so we can explain the climate of each of our adopted cities based upon its location and its geography. Some of our adopted cities are near the ocean, so we look at how the ocean influences the climate of many of our cities, paying particular attention to the connection between ocean circulation and climate. And along the way, we're going to look at how the Pacific Garbage Patch helps us really visualize the ocean movement. We also learn that the climate at our adopted cities is changing, bringing about new potential climate hazards. We write stories about the places that we care about, both to demonstrate our understanding of climate, but also to connect to our audience and communicate about climate change. It's all here in our unit roadmap, so let's get started.